for any families who cannot attend. What that means is if you ask a question while the recording is going, your question and the response may well be part of the recording, just so everyone's aware. Right then, so for the benefit of anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Susie Green. I'm the head of sixth form at Finham Park School, and this will be a short presentation. I'm going to aim to keep the event to 30 minutes, talking about careers and post-18 options. It seems ridiculous that only 6 weeks after starting at Finham Park, I'm inviting you to Finham Park Sixth Form, that is, I'm inviting you to a talk about your child's post-18 options. But believe it or not, the application process will come round quicker than you expect, and there are a number of things that students should be doing now and throughout Year 12 in order to ensure that they are fully equipped for their pathway post-18. So this presentation is just meant to be helpful, a little bit of information, a few tips to make sure that students get the most out of Year 12 to pave the way for their career pathway for after the sixth form. I will take questions at the end. Please keep the questions that are asked in this chat relevant to careers. If you have any questions about the sixth form in general, feel free to contact me separately. Okay, so this is what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about different options, key dates, support available. Very important one, what students should be doing now. We're going to talk a little bit about open days, what students should be doing now in terms of work experience and reading. Predicted grades, appeals and references, I always get a lot of requests about those. The careers days that we run in the summer, early entry, which I will explain in a minute, and I will talk to you about our new careers advisor. So firstly, some key contacts. We've just appointed a new careers advisor. Her name is Mrs. Kang. Her email address is on the screen there. She is available for careers appointments. Her time is obviously limited, and we're a school of almost 2,000 children across the 7-year groups. So I would ask that you only request a careers appointment if you have a specific question, but Mrs. Kang absolutely can see any of the sixth form students. Parents are welcome to attend those careers appointments if they would find that beneficial. Mr. Jeffries is the exams officer. His role in this will become clear as we talk about things like admissions tests. But if you have any questions for him, you can see his email address on the screen. Now, just a quick announcement about our Period 6+ talks. So for the benefit of anyone who doesn't remember what these are, every Monday after school, we have a speaker, or we aim for every Monday. You'll see we've got 2 gaps this term. We have a speaker, and they come and talk about something interesting. Some of them are directly careers related, some of them are not. But the point is, they are an opportunity for students to listen to somebody really interesting talk about something they're passionate about. I feel really strongly that at post-16, it's easy for the curriculum to narrow, and we don't want that. I'd like to particularly draw your attention to Monday's talk. It's being given by Beth Adams. She is a vet in the army, and she's going to talk about both becoming a vet and her journey to veterinary medicine, and also her journey to joining the army. So if students are interested, I would say veterinary medicine, but also medicine or dentistry, because they have very similar pathways in terms of the application process, or interested in any of the armed forces, it would be sensible for them to attend. Coming up, we've got talks from somebody from Aston Martin. Bob Cheshire is a concept artist who's worked on some of the Marvel films and some really quite big films, so that's very relevant. Volunteering for the Citizens Advice Bureau. Any child who wants some work experience, that's a really good opportunity. On the 17th of November, we have an amazing speaker coming to talk about his personal experience of surviving the Rwandan genocide. And then Alex O'Connor is from Zero Gravity. That's a mentoring program who supports students to apply to university. And then Kaylee and Lola are 2 ex-students who are both at university doing slightly different creative pathways, and they're going to talk about their careers. If you would be interested in offering a Period 6 talk, you'll see we have 2 gaps. Please do let me know. Okay, so careers. The pathways available to students after sixth form are generally as follows. So they can go to university. The majority will go to university starting September 2027, but they may choose to have deferred entry. That just means that they apply to university, but they put their place off for a year, so they would go in September 2028. If they do that, they'll probably have a gap year. This is an increasingly popular option. Students are wanting to obtain work experience or to travel or to do all sorts of different things. And actually, I think gap years are a really very good thing if they are used appropriately. Apprenticeships, there are a number of different types of apprenticeship, but the two main types that sixth form students will go on to study are level 3 apprenticeships. So they are regular apprenticeships at level 3, which is what students do post 18, or degree apprenticeships. Degree apprenticeships are really amazing. They're offered by companies like JLR. I think Severn Trent have recently started offering one. And they're a program that's usually around 7 years, in which a student gets several years of work experience through a workplace apprenticeship, but is also released to university rather than college, and studies for and obtains a degree as part of that program. Now, those programs are generally fully funded, meaning that not only would the child, or they wouldn't be a child anymore, not only would the individual be paid during that apprenticeship, but they would also not have to pay for a degree. The downside of degree apprenticeships is they are very specific to a certain field. But if your child knows they want to get into a certain field, a degree apprenticeship is a good option. Do bear in mind they are incredibly competitive. A regular level 3 apprenticeship will be workplace experience, paid workplace experience, with usually 1 day a week at college to study for a particular profession. People think of apprenticeships as often just being available for jobs like trade. The trade apprenticeships are amazing, but that is not it. There are lots of apprenticeships in things like finance, HR, business management, hospital administration, all sorts of things. And I'll talk a little bit later about where you can find these apprenticeships. And our students did actually have an assembly quite recently from the DFE about apprenticeships options as well. There are a number of college courses available for post-18 students at level 3. And then at 18, some students will choose to go directly into paid employment. So the timeline for the next year or so. Throughout this year, students will have careers support during their personal development period at school. In the summer term, they will have a careers conference. This is a 2-day conference where we have a number of outside speakers. We have a careers fair. I'll go through the programme for that later on, and they will start writing their applications. So depending on what they want to apply for, the majority of applications will be submitted during the autumn term, but we try and get a chunk of that done in the summer term to take the pressure off while students are still in year 12. In the autumn term, they'll submit their applications, and depending on what they want to do, they may well have interviews. It's worth saying at this point that if your child wants to go into a career whereby they will have to submit a portfolio, so that could be something like an art course, it could be something like an architecture degree, it could be something like a film course, they will need to have a portfolio ready. And the requests for the portfolios often come in very, very quickly after the application is submitted. So do be aware that by September, October next year, that portfolio will need to be built and prepared. So the most important thing, what should students be doing now? At this point, in all likelihood, students do not know what they want to do after they leave the sixth form. My recommendation is they spend a bit of time researching. Now, this PowerPoint will be sent out tomorrow with the newsletter, so you'll have these links, but I've put a few helpful links on for different career pathways so students can have a look on them and do a bit of research. I suspect most students will know whether they want to go to university. The majority of Finnan Park sixth form students do apply for university, not all, it's about 70% of students apply for university, and that is our most popular pathway. But over the last 5 years, we've had a number apply for and be successful at obtaining apprenticeships and going down all different pathways. So it's worth having a look on all these different websites at different career pathways. Secondly, they should spend some time reflecting on what subject or course they want to study. So if they apply for university, they will need to pick 5 courses. Now, just talking about university for a minute, if your child wants to apply for university, then they will have to pick, as I said, 5 different universities. Now, it's very notable that all the courses at different universities can be quite different. So if you take a subject, say history or engineering or whatever it is, those courses at different universities will not look the same. And so, even if your child has narrowed down their preference and has decided they want to study, say, business studies or economics or something, they still need to do some research into the courses at different universities to see which appeal to them and their particular interests. If your child has decided they want to study an apprenticeship in accounting and finance, every apprenticeship in accounting and finance will be really quite different because they'll be run by completely different companies. So, not only should students decide that they want to, or start thinking about whether or not they want to go to university, to college, or whatever, it would be sensible to start thinking or start reflecting on what they might want to do. There is absolutely no need to decide now. There's absolutely no need to decide now. They probably need to have made a final decision by a year's time. But it can be a bit panicky if they don't think about it until the summer. And so it's really helpful for students to start the process of reflecting and to have some conversations at home now. And I've put on the screen just a few questions that maybe you could discuss at home about. I would really focus on what they enjoy, because what they do after they're 18, they're going to be doing for a while. And so it's important they enjoy it. They need to think, in reality, are they still up for studying? Do they want to do more studying, or do they need a break from that? Do they want to travel? Do they have a career in mind? Do they want to try something new? These are all questions that your child needs to think about before they make any decisions, because the worst thing a child can do is just fall into a career that isn't the career that's really suitable for them. So after that, we recommend that students attend open days. There tend to be 3 rounds of open days, and this is for university, college, and in some cases, apprenticeship providers. So there are open days happening now in the autumn term of year 12. There are open days that happen in the summer term of year 12, and there are open days that happen in the autumn term of year 13. We recommend that students, where possible, try to book open days either in the autumn term or summer term of year 12, because in year 13, students are so busy and there's so much to do that it's not sensible for that to be happening then. Obviously, if that's what they need to do, we will support and we will authorise that. But we really, really recommend that you think about getting ahead. Excuse me, the website on the screen, and again, this will be sent out, is a website that does its best to collate these open days. Please be mindful, it's useful, but it's not all inclusive. So if your child has a particular university or college or provider that they want to go to, it is absolutely worth you having a look at that website separately. Book open days in advance, they do fill up. If you need to miss a day of school, we will authorise it as long as it doesn't clash with an assessment, but please let us know in advance. I'm going to talk about in a minute what to do at open days and how to get the most out of them. So hopefully that'll be useful as well. The fourth thing students should be doing, and this is the most important thing, is they should be focusing on their studies and assessments. So whatever their pathway, we will have to predict them a grade, and we'll do that in September of year 13. Now, the predicted grades will be issued based on all of the work the child has done across year 13. So that's classwork, that's homework, that's assessments, that's independent study, in-class responses. I say to teachers, literally, I want you to predict that individual the grade you think they are most likely to get at the end of year 13. There's no agenda, but there's often a rumour that goes round that their predicted grade will be the grade they get in the end of year exam. That is not true at all. We're already working with students to make sure we get the most accurate predicted grade. Now, where this will fall down is if students don't do any work in year 12, they don't try hard enough, they don't focus, because they think, oh, I've got 2 years, I'll worry about it in year 13. And if that happens, that will bite them on the backside when it comes to the end of when it comes to predicting grades in a year's time. So the next thing students should be doing is they should be looking at improving their CV or application. So when students come to writing their application, whatever they apply for, they'll need to put together some sort of personal statement. That could be for university, but it could be a personal statement for something like a job or a covering letter. And sometimes students get to the start of year 13 and they're just like, I've got nothing to write. I haven't done anything. I haven't done any extracurricular activities. I haven't done any reading. And so now is really important. It's a very important time for them to be doing that. So firstly, I recommend that students spend time doing relevant background reading and being reflective and critical of that background reading. I recommend that students focus on doing as much work experience as they can. Work experience and volunteering is literally the most important thing that students can do. We will authorise work experience outside the work experience week. We encourage students to take one afternoon a week when they've got study periods to go and do some volunteering or work experience. As long as it doesn't coincide with an assessment, we will support it. Absolutely get as much relevant work experience as you can. It's very important that students keep an eye on the news and current affairs, particularly relevant ones, and with that they keep an eye on things like podcasts and documentaries. It's very important that students work on building their portfolio if that's relevant to their chosen course. We already discussed that a little bit, and as I said, I recommend that students attend relevant Period 6+ talks. So, extracurricular activities, these come with a big disclaimer. Now, at the moment, Year 12 are very enthusiastic. Lots of them want to run extracurricular activities, lots of them want to attend extracurricular activities, and that's lovely. And they're great. But it's worth making clear that actually, for things like an Oxford or Cambridge or a Russell Group University, extracurricular activities don't do a great deal on their application. Now, if your child wants to be in the Sikh Society, that's amazing. If they want to play basketball, that's amazing. If they want to be in the debate club, that's amazing. And I strongly encourage that because for their well-being and them becoming a well-rounded individual, that's a great thing to do. But I have to be honest with you that on a personal statement, those things will only actually provide a couple of sentences because the majority of the content for the personal statements and the covering letters will be academic and relevant specifically to the course or job that child wants to do. Now, sometimes extracurricular activities will be particularly relevant, but generally they absolutely should be doing extracurricular activities, but I think the message I'm trying to get across is that it's not helpful for them to put all of their time into that, and it shouldn't take priority over getting good grades, relevant work experience, things like that. Now, so those are the things that students should be doing now, really, and hopefully that's a clear sort of list and action plan of what students should be doing. Now, I'm hoping off the back of this that anybody whose child wants to go to university or do an apprenticeship or go to college will go and investigate some open days. So, what to do at open days, how to make the most of them. Firstly, I recommend making a plan in advance. So, open days can be absolutely overwhelming, and it's really common for students to come back to school and say to me or to their mentor, there was just so much going on, I don't feel like I got much out of it. So, firstly, think about the travel, think about who's going to go, make sure you've booked. Open days often do turn people away. It is important to book that space. Now, have a look at the schedule in advance, particularly for universities and for some apprenticeship providers. There will be a ton of sessions. There'll be loads of talks, seminars, taster sessions. And we recommend attending as many as possible, but logistically, they might all be in different places, so it can be good to prioritise and think about in advance what it is you want to attend. You may well not be able to attend two things you want to attend, so if you can have a look at the schedule in advance, they're often available on the website with the event, then it is worth just thinking about that beforehand. I would also recommend thinking about questions you want to ask people and jotting them down because again, the day can be overwhelming and busy. You may want to ask different people different questions, lecturers, admissions tutors, current students, and so it's sensible to just think about that beforehand. In a minute, I'm going to give you some suggested questions. So that's what I do to plan. Now, whilst you're there, talking about the staff, you might want to know about the split between things like seminars and lectures. If it's an apprenticeship, you might want to know about the split between days at work, days at college. What do the days at college look like? What are the assignments like? How much studying are you expected to do outside contact time? Will there be online teaching? Since COVID is more and more common for colleges and universities to have some modules taught online, does that suit you? Do you rather in person? And very importantly, what will make me stand out when writing my personal statement or my covering letter? For students, ask them about their experience, ask them about what they like and what they don't like, ask them about the teaching and the support. You may be interested to know about the social scene, ask them about their accommodation, ask them about whether the accommodation booking process, this is if you want to live away from home, is easy. Because sometimes that can be a bit of a pain, and it's just worth going into a university application with your eyes open. Now, other things to think about at open days. Firstly, the journey there and back. Now, if you can, I recommend you do this on public transport. Now, some of you drive and some of you will have a car. I've seen there's a question in the chat. I will address that at the end. Some of you will have a car, but the majority of you, when you're at university or college or whatever, will get around on public transport. So I recommend doing the journey on public transport so you can see what it's like if you need to get home quickly, particularly if you're going away from Coventry. I recommend having a think about the location and the city. So I recommend as part of the time you're there, go for lunch, walk around the town, see if you like it. And also, if you're applying for something like a campus university or an apprenticeship provider, a big company that's out of town, because often big companies are out of town, it's worth getting the bus into town to see how the journey is. I would look at accommodation if you can, that's really focused on university and the location of different places. Some of you will be happy to walk really long distances between different places. Some of you will want everything to be close together. What's the vibe? I would see you can tell a lot just by whether current students seem happy, do they seem to like each other? And then make sure in advance you've thought about things that are important to you. So, for example, whatever that is there a place of worship you're happy with? Is there a pride society you're happy with? Is there a particular club? If you're interested in rugby, is there a rugby team you'd want to join? Whatever it is, does the cafe do vegan food? Anything that's a big thing for you, just go and think about it because you're probably committing years of your life. And whilst these things seem small, they're actually really not. So, work experience and volunteering. I did see a question in the chat that says, do we provide support? Yes, we do. That is more focused at the work experience week. That is in the summer, but we will provide students with support as and when they need it. That's something you can contact the careers advisor about, or students can come and speak to me. So, how to go about getting volunteering or work experience? Firstly, be cheeky and be persistent. So if you want to do work experience somewhere, contact them. Be prepared to send a letter and a CV. Students will work on their CV in personal development period throughout the year, but if you want to secure work experience now, get ahead and have a look at that. Just reach out. If you don't get a response, reach out again. Quite often, people we've found will give students a work experience just to get rid of them if they're really persistent. On the screen, there's some links that have got lists of volunteering roles and experience. Often volunteering is a really good way to get work experience because quite a lot of places have volunteering programs that you can go into and that are really, really good work experiences. I cannot recommend enough getting at least one longer placement either in the summer or regularly in term time. We have students who go out once a week for an afternoon when they've got study periods to go and volunteer somewhere or do work experience somewhere. And those people go to the same place every week. They see the same staff members, they work with the same clients, whatever it might be. And that makes really, really good experience. Somebody's just taken my PowerPoint off, so I will just reshare my screen. Whoever's just taken control of my screen, if you could stop that, I'd be grateful. Thank you. Let's go back to where we were. Sorry about this. There we go. Yeah, somebody took control of the screen then. If you could not do that, that would be really kind. Thank you. Okay, so let's just continue. So that's what we do for work experience. As I said, pursue the volunteering route and then just contact people. I have got a list of providers that have accepted our students for work experience in the past, and I will send that out with this presentation. So if you're looking for somewhere as a bit of a starting point, then that will be it. So what should you be reading? What background reading should students be doing? We recommend anything relevant to their chosen course or courses or apprenticeship or whatever. If your child wants to go to university, then very conveniently, the university websites will have undergraduate reading lists on. There's an example of one there, but if you have a look at any university your child is interested in, then the undergraduate reading list will be available for them to look at, and they can use that as a starting point for some background reading. Go to the local library to find books. As you know, we have contacts with both Coventry and Warwick University Library. We can provide students with a letter and a pass to go to those libraries, and they can borrow books from there. They're very well equipped. The school library is amazing. If your child wants to study something like an apprenticeship, then it kind of depends on what the apprenticeship is in. But there will be lots of books. Speak to the provider. There'll be lots of articles, probably news articles, relevant current affairs articles or documentaries that are relevant to that career. If they want a career in finance, then they need to be doing background reading about finance. If they want to do an apprenticeship for Arup, they need to be doing background reading in the things that Arup do. There are so many different fields. It kind of depends on what apprenticeship they're applying for. And so they just need to make sure it's really relevant to the specific. But as I said, for university, start with undergraduate reading lists. Predicted grades. Now, this is the big question. Lots of people ask me about this. So, next September, predicted grades will be published as a progress check, and students will have a 2-week window to put together an evidence-based appeal if they feel that that predicted grade does not fairly reflect the work they've done throughout Year 12. At this point, I have to be absolutely clear, and I will be absolutely clear on this every time I speak about it, that we will not, and I will never predict a child a grade I have not seen evidence they are capable of getting. UCAS keep a track of the grades that schools predict and then the grades children get. So at the moment, I'm being really strict with Year 13 and their predictions. We are fair, but we are not unrealistic, and that will protect Year 12. And when you lot get to Year 13, I will be strict with you to protect the next Year 12, and so on and so forth. And so we cannot predict you a grade we've not seen evidence you're capable of getting. However, if you get your predicted grade and you think it's not fair, you will have a chance to appeal. That's got to be an evidence-based appeal. You will be able to put together a covering letter and any physical evidence you've got, marked assessments, folders of work, whatever that is, and we will review them. So the reason I'm telling you this is because every year there's somebody in Year 13 who is surprised that we've taken the work in Year 13, in Year 12 into account when we are generating their predicted grade. And so I want to be really clear at this stage of Year 12 that the work students do now is super important in those predicted grades, which are one of the most important things on their university apprenticeship or college application. And we have to put predicted grades on any reference we do really for post 18. The other thing that we have to do is we have to provide a reference, and that'll be regardless of pathway. The reference will be written by your child's mentor. This is one of the reasons that attending personal development period is so important. Your child's mentor will get to know them very well. They'll see them every single morning, and therefore they're the best person to write that reference. That reference will also be contributed to by subject teachers. We allow students to see their reference before it's submitted. Now, this next bit is very important. When we write a reference for you to any pathway, we can mention mitigating circumstances. So if your child, for example, has a bereavement, they have special educational needs, there's something going on in their life, maybe they're a young carer, whatever it is, that significantly disadvantages them and means that their studying is harder than it is for other people, then we can mention that on the reference. So please make sure there is an open dialogue with your child's mentor so that they can do that reference to the best of their ability. So the careers conference are on the 9th and 10th of July, and there'll be two different pathways. So there'll be a university pathway and a college and apprenticeship pathway. We record both because some students don't know which pathway they want to do. And the provisional schedule is across the next page. So day one, for students who are interested in university, we will have an introduction to student finance. So key dates for student finance, like an introduction to applying for a student loan, logging onto UCAS. UCAS is the portal through which students make university applications, and it's a bit faffy. So we sit down with students and they all log on, they make their accounts and they put in their personal information. We have an outside speaker about how to write a university personal statement, an outside speaker about university life, and an outside speaker about what students should be doing over the summer between year 12 and 13 to prepare themselves. We also, for the apprenticeship or college pathway, we have CV writing, we have an outside speaker, what are apprenticeships, we have somebody talking about college and apprenticeship applications. Last year we actually had somebody about college and apprenticeship interviews, and then also making the most of the summer. So that's the first day, that's mostly education. And then the second day, students will be with their mentor all day, writing their personal statement or CV, and they will have a careers fair that they go to as part of that day. Early entry is the name for applications that are made by students who want to apply for Oxford University, Cambridge University, medicine, dentistry, and veterinary medicine. Now, I'm going to do a separate talk after half term for the parents of people who want to, sorry, excuse me, that's my baby, who want to apply for any of these pathways. But if you want to apply for one of these pathways, places are very, very competitive, and really a lot of the work needs to be done before the summer. So if your child wants to apply for one of these pathways, please look out, because I'm going to do a separate talk for those parents, because there's an awful lot that they need to be getting on with very, very soon. So, as I said earlier, if your child applies for any pathway, they may be called for interview. Different providers do interviews in person or remotely. So we don't know yet whether those will be in person or remote, because it depends on the pathway your child is looking for. We will provide support at the time. And if you want to get ahead, most universities or college, not so much apprenticeship providers, but universities or colleges have practice questions online. As I said earlier, think carefully about pieces of work for a portfolio if your child's interested in a portfolio type pathway. That does include some apprenticeships, so apprenticeships into things like filmmaking, architecture. One of our students did an apprenticeship with Amazon Prime a few years ago and had to come up with a big portfolio of filmmaking work. And then some courses, this is mostly university, require admissions tests. Some of these we arrange at school, and some of them have to be arranged locally through places like driving theory test centres. Please be aware the deadline for admissions tests is usually in September, so it's worth being organised with that. Once all of that is done, students will receive offers from colleges, universities, or apprenticeship providers several weeks or months after they submit their application. And this is a really difficult time, because some students will get an offer from university 2 days after they've applied, and so some won't hear for months. And that's really difficult. And students struggle with that because they see their peers going through a pathway that's different to their own, but there is no set timeline. It's very common for students to be rejected by at least one university if they apply to university. So please work with students to get used to this idea in advance. Sometimes it's the first time they've ever been rejected from anything, and that can be very, very difficult. This all feels very overwhelming, but thinking about things now, we find is really helpful for students in a few months' time. So I know I've given you an awful lot of information, but I will take any questions now. If you've got any quick questions, pop them in the chat. My email address is on the screen if you've got any bigger questions or you want to ask questions generally about the sixth form that don't relate specifically to careers. Now, I'm just going to have a look at the chat. Somebody's put an opportunity for students interested in veterinary courses for anyone who's interested. If there are any other questions, just type them in the chat and I will answer them now. I can't see anything coming through. I'll stay on the call just for a couple of minutes in case anyone's got anything else. But basically, thank you so much for attending. I'm aware this was a whistle-stop tour of a lot of information, but we just thought that it would be good to give parents a flavour of what happens so that you have a bit of understanding to support your children. The Warwick Scholars presentation, we can't give you all of the slides because they've asked us not to, but we can give some information about Warwick Scholars. Yes, absolutely, that's fine. Do we run school trips to Oxbridge? Some years yes, some years no, depending on demand and interest. What I will do is I will hold the meeting that I've just mentioned for parents of children who want to apply for early entry. We'll see what the cohort looks like, and if there is sufficient demand, then yes, we will run a school trip to Oxbridge. Thank you so much. I'll send. Oh, hang on, there's another question. Can the students have a discussion about which work experience and volunteering to do align to the subjects they're studying? Yes, absolutely. They can speak to their mentor about that. They can speak to myself, or they can contact Mrs. Kang, the careers advisor. Is there anything else? Doesn't seem that like there's anything else, so I'll just say thank you very much and have a really lovely evening. I hope that was helpful. Thank you. Bye bye.